get this party started. I think the audio's... Ah. Wait. Ah. It's annoying. Boop. Alright. Alright. Hello, I'm going to be doing a reaction of this video, or this VOD from a Twitter space. This is going to be insane. Let's start.
United States of America. If you want to say you love Hitler, if you want to be anti-Semitic, you should be like allowed to say those things. I don't like it when people get banned for being anti-Semitic and then they say they weren't anti-Semitic, but then they also defend freedom of speech, but they won't say those things. It's ironic because all the people that talk about the Jew stuff are like the people who are the most scared to own the things that they've actually said. Like, it's the United...
I know where this is going. Destiny's already doing his fast talking mumbo jumbo bullshit.
United States of America. If you want to be anti-Semitic or anti-Jew, you have the right to say that publicly. Like, there's no law against like saying that publicly. Like, champion that.
Can I
like,
jump in now? My thing was glitching.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
I want to answer this. Yeah. So, you're right. We cannot compare loving Hitler to loving Destiny. Destiny is far worse.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Man,
look, let's try to last more than 24 hours today.
Come on, that's a good riff. No, you're right. But here's the thing. I think that in those cases, in those edge cases, yes, like we do have to permit people to say things that even everybody disagrees with. We have to permit people to say things that anybody would say, oh, of course you shouldn't be able to say that. That's where it matters. The limits of free speech, that's where it becomes tested. We don't have free speech so that people can say, I like Burger King instead of Wendy's. No, we have free speech so that people can say things that are outrageous and question fundamental assumptions, like about Hitler, like about certain political myths or, how our political system is founded. And so when Destiny says, oh, you don't own what you say, it's not about that. It's just about if you are able to discern the tone when someone is talking or what the meaning is. You look at a lot of the things I say, a statement like that is obviously said in a tongue-in-cheek. It's punchy, it's outrageous, it's intended to be. That's the obvious purpose. And all of a sudden when somebody who is like, and by the way, I should point out, while we're playing this game about, you said this, you said that, when I say something like what I don't want to get banned, but when I say something like what I said a year ago that got me re-banned after I was reinstated, everybody looks at that and not rightly, they rightly say it's outrageous, but there's a complete context denial. People hear that statement and they go, he said what? Ban. Because I'm a right-wing guy and I have all these views and I'm like a canceled American. He's got to go. Hang on. I'm making an important point. When Destiny says, I think that the Palestinians should be genocided, ha ha ha, nobody looks at that and says, oh, he should be canceled. What an outrageous thing to say. Some people do, but he's on YouTube. He hangs out with Shapiro, Jordan Peterson. When I say something because I'm right-wing and it's outrageous, there's no charity. People pretend like they don't know what humor is. People pretend they don't know what rhetoric is. That's just who he is. He's an odious person. Get him out of here. And same goes for everyone here. Same thing happened to Tate. Similar things have happened to Elon. It's happened to Alex Jones. When left-wing people do or say things that are just as bad, just as racist or just as violent or whatever, it's always with them, oh, well, I'm sure he was joking. Hassan Piker can say, we deserve 9/11. As far as I know, he's still on Twitch. I'm not. But what is materially different from saying America deserved 9/11? 3,000 souls innocent were killed. We deserve that. That's a fine statement. You're on Twitch and Twitter, and there's no censorship. When Destiny says, I think Palestinians should be genocided, ha ha ha, he's still on YouTube, he's still on all these platforms, nobody even thinks twice. When Nick Fuentes makes a joke, hang on, when I say something like, oh, whatever I said, I don't want to say it again because I don't want to get banned, oh.
Yeah, that's the thing. There is definitely a double standard. I just think it's insane that these people get banned over jokes, and not just that these other people get butthurt over it. Like, Destiny has dropped the N-bomb how many times throughout his streaming career, and nobody cares because these people that are supporting him, including the conservatives, which, by the way, these conservatives, like these Daily Wire type conservatives, I've said this before, they don't like black people. You can make fun of black people all day long, it's all good, but when it comes to the Jews,
oh, well, he's a horrible person. He's an avowed neo-Nazi. Look at what, they're going to reprint the quote like Ed Krasenstein did without the laughing or the tone. And that's BS. Like, let's just be honest. Everyone can recognize what's going on there.
So let me, Destiny, hold on, guys.
Nick, just a quick question. Just on that specific point.
Before that point, Sully, just because there was something mentioned, there's an important sensitive thing. So, Destiny, on the joke that Nick, and obviously it's a joke that many will find insensitive, offending, etc. On the joke of you being a more despicable person, I think he said, than Hitler. Now, I think he meant it as a joke. Do you think such jokes, Destiny, you said that Nick is on your blacklist. Do you think such jokes should be censored or they should be allowed? What's your position on that, Destiny?
If you're talking legally, I think you should be allowed to joke about whatever you want to joke about. But again, like, the problem again is like the advocates for freedom of speech are so.
But the problem is, this is, I don't like these people that every time they're so open about something, these liberals, they're like, oh yeah, go ahead and do this thing, have freedom of speech, have as much crazy sex as you want, but you can't do this. All these double standards are ridiculous. And it's just funny too, like, these people crying about jokes and different opinions and stuff. All these people complaining about this are fucking degenerates in their personal life. And like, I know that Andrew Tate's on this thing. Destiny, he critiques the red pill and all this stuff. They're like, oh, look how they treat women and all this shit. But look how he dates women and shit. He has a bunch of whores around him, but it's only bad when it's like a red pill type guy. It's so fucking stupid. There's this like, you can't live through life having everything your way.
Like, fucking boring and dishonest. Like, Fuentes is not banned for telling jokes. Fuentes is banned because he jokes about things he actually believes, right? The difference between, like, me and Fuentes is, if you ask me, Destiny, do you think all the Palestinians should be genocided? I mean, if you listen to the rest of that clip, I go, man, it's like a really fucked situation. I don't know how it's going to end. It seems like there's no way out. Like, that's my answer. If you ask Nick, do you really think that, like, Jews run 70% of the world and the white race is being bred out of existence by mass immigration that's facilitated by secret Jewish financiers who also control all of our foreign policy and make us allegiant to Israel, and they've done this for thousands of years, and that's why they're kicked out of every single. He'd be like, well, yeah, and also, 6 million cookies, right? Like, the difference is Nick isn't joking.
No, but Destiny, again, Destiny, quick question. No, but Destiny, like, do you not agree that a person can ask a question?
Who are these, like, hosts on these? I've heard a lot of these Twitter Spaces. Who are these hosts? These guys that host this shit? Like, I'm not saying I'm the most professional, speaker of all time. Definitely not. But these guys stutter a lot. A lot of these guys sound like they barely speak English. Like, why are these guys always hosting these Twitter Spaces? Does Elon know these guys? Like, what is going on? Mario now. I don't know who Mario now Nawful is.
Question. So they could believe in a certain ideological position and then ask a question that people would find harmful, or find it emotionally hurting. As an example, you said you're anti-Islam or you're Islamophobic, and then you make jokes about it. So you can clearly have a position and yet make jokes about it, right?
Well, yeah, too. Like they always have like busted like. It doesn't even sound like a laptop mic. It sounds like a headset mic from fucking 1999.
No. But if you were to ask me, Destiny, why do you make jokes against Islam? I wouldn't be a pussy and say, oh, bro, I'm just joking. I would say, because I don't like Islam. I really don't. I hate the religion. Like, I would be honest about it. I'm not going to say to you, be like, oh,
yeah, but let me ask Nick. And this is the thing. So why is and this is the real question people are asking, like, why is Destiny able to make those comments and someone like Nick gets banned? So Nick, same question to you.
Because Destiny is paid off. It's just very peculiar that this guy, who he isn't like a controversial figure, but he's not this like mainstream political commentary kind of guy, but all of a sudden he's on every single mainstream platform in existence, every mainstream show. Destiny's been on TV a bunch of times within the last 2 months. TV that only boomers watch, you know? He's on fucking national television. Like Fox News and Piers Morgan and all this shit. It's so blatant, dude.
Your position in terms of
what is with these guys? This is what bothers me and like a lot of people. What's with these like conservative trad type people? I'm not even just gonna say guys, 'cause there's women too that consider themselves trad, that are giving these guys like talking to these guys like Destiny and praising these guys like Destiny, well, Destiny in particular, who are fucking, they're liberal. He's liberal, and not just that, he's a fucking degenerate. Nothing about Destiny is trad. He's an atheist. He does drugs. He has sex with multiple people at once. He has sex with guys. There's nothing trad about him. And he'll tell you too, he's not trad. He's anti-trad. He's proud of it. He's anti-conservative. He's proud of it. You know, he's upfront about it. But for some reason, he's the golden child. He's the only acceptable one. Nobody else, no other liberal commentator is worthy.
Whether you believe that certain people run the world or whatever it is. I mean, have you hid from that position? Like, that's his argument.
Absolutely not. No, but here's the difference. People are not saying, oh, you believe that Jews have disproportionate influence in media. I don't think anyone would even disagree with that. I don't even think Jews would disagree with that. Also, it's an empirical question. So people, if they're interested, can go and look it up. You know, it's actually not a completely subjective question. It's actually quite objective. But that's not what people accuse me of. And that's like a very slippery way to frame it. When Destiny says they should be genocided, so of course I don't believe they should be genocided. Okay, fair enough. People watch my speech from a year ago or 2 years ago, and they say, oh, he wants to kill all people that aren't like him. In the same speech, I say, we love everyone. We love even our enemies. We need to pray for them. We need mercy and compassion towards them. We don't need cruelty. I think even in that same speech, not even about Jewish people or Israel, in that same speech, I said, when I look at homosexuals and transsexuals, I don't like all the cruelty visited upon them. We need to pray for them. We need to bring them into the church, blah, blah, blah. So it's like the same speech where people say, oh, Nick said he wants to kill everyone and all of his opponents. I'm literally as Destiny said with his comments about genociding Palestinians, if you look at the full context, it's completely misrepresented. The difference is the ADL and the SPLC aren't clipping Destiny's joke and throwing it on social media every time he makes a post. The difference is when an article is written about Destiny, there isn't a preamble that says Destiny, a live streamer who said Palestinians should be genocided, but they do that for me. Every unfortunate thing, joke, exaggeration, whatever you want to call it, always with the most uncharitable interpretation, that is on my Wikipedia. That is the preamble of every article written about me. And I'm not going to hide behind my real views. Okay.
Are you saying that
Hello?
all of that was taken out of context?
Saying that we're going to kill everybody? or whatever, yeah, it absolutely is taken out of context. I mean, we have to give me a specific example.
How many Jews do you think died in the Holocaust?
There's a thing too. Like, these people must be like really autistic. Like, if somebody makes like a Jewish made into cookies joke, or like fucking, I don't know, the lowest of the low dumbest 9/11 jokes or whatever it is, me personally, my first instinct would be like, oh, that person's joking to be edgy. I wouldn't be like, oh my god, he actually believes that. That's not my first instinct. I just think these people are like really bad judges of character.
Specific. How many?
So Nick, just a quick question, right? When you've explained the disparity in terms of the rules, like basically Destiny can attack Islam, Muslims, and he's got no problems, and you have been banned. Now the question becomes, when you know that that's the level of Sophia that we live in, that there is this disparity, do you then, like, now you made a joke, didn't you, right? And it was clearly a joke, but now that could be snipped and that could maybe be used to get you banned or whatever it may be. So does that make you become, does that make you become, well, obviously it hasn't, but should it then make you become a lot more careful in even the jokes you make?
No, absolutely not. Because what I have learned, because I've been doing this for a little while now, longer than many people, what I've learned is it doesn't matter, actually, what you say or how carefully you say it. Keith Woods is on here. He just jumped on the space. This is a guy who, I mean, me and my followers, it's like an inside joke that his streams are they don't have any rhetoric. They don't have there's no jokes. It's very dry. It's all philosophy. This guy is like the most controlled, disciplined, and by controlled, I mean he has self-control, not like controlled op. I mean, he's self-controlled, restrained, disciplined. And even when he got popular last year for the ban, he started the Ban the ADL campaign, hashtag, they dug up like a tweet from 2 years prior where he said something like, sarcastically, oh, I guess I'm a raging.
I'm really tired of the whole digging up old tweets thing. I'm like who, and I don't know what Keith Woods said or whatever. It actually doesn't matter. Like, who hasn't, it's kind of with all the Me Too stuff, who hasn't said anything cringe in their past, or who hasn't on social media when they're younger, or anything like that? Like, who hasn't made an edgy joke in their life? I mean, lock us all up, dude. Like, seriously.
Anti-Semite because
I also think it's funny too that Elon was all like, yeah, I'm gonna unban Nick, but I don't like it, and the sponsors, it's like, dude, Elon Musk is supposed to be this like free speech, this like bad boy type guy, but then he gets scared of unbanning somebody. Ooh. It's the internet. It's not real life, dude. But when you're as much of a spurg like Elon, then it seems like real life.
Blah blah blah. The ADL cut that, and now every time there's an article about
Elon's
Keith,
not a bad boy too. He went to Auschwitz to apologize, and Ben Shapiro was there, like, for some reason, because Ben Shapiro, I guess, is the go-to Jew now. I guess no other Jews exist besides Ben Shapiro. He's like the Luke Skywalker. Ben Shapiro is the Luke Skywalker Jews. Speaking of that fucking Mark Hamill video, Joe Biden. Woo!
Keith Woods, it says, self-avowed, raging anti-Semite. One tweet from years ago said in an obviously, I mean, Keith knows the details, so he can reproduce the tweet, but it was so obviously, he wasn't saying, hey, it was obviously rhetorical, it was obviously sarcastic, so it doesn't matter. all the videos, all these dry videos about Platonism and, video essays and articles about birth rates in a very measured academic way. He said one thing sarcastic one time. They dug in, found it. Some researcher reproduced it. Now he forever will be known as the self-avowed raging anti-Semite. So I've seen many things like that. So the question is, do you self-censor and impose a chilling effect? And, we can't be funny. We can't make jokes. We can't be rhetorical. We have to kind of go through this translator and be, as Tate said at the beginning, you neuter yourself. They want you neutered with the chilling effect from these free speech regulations. Or do you just kind of go out? I feel like I have filled up the room with such a cacophony. Like there's just like this ambient perception of me as this vaguely horrible person. Now I can say whatever I want. Now I can say whatever. And, and I think people can recognize if they watch my show. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot and then get Destiny's thoughts. I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Sure.
And I'm pretty confident you will not get banned answering that question. But what is the most controversial belief that you currently hold? And the mic is yours. It doesn't matter how controversial it is, because then my next question for Destiny and anyone else would be, should that belief be censored? Should the ability to speak about that belief be censored? Nick, the mic is yours.
Okay. Well, I would say the biggest taboo right now is talking about Jewish people, because I talk about race and I talk about gender and a lot of things. And the biggest taboo is, as we all know, talking about Jewish people's influence, and they could be right wing or left wing. I think, though, it seems like the influence of Israel is maybe the biggest one, because even conservatives talk about George Soros. So I would say it's Jewish influence. And my answer for that is I think that only Christians should be in power in America. And I don't know the details of how you'd work that out in terms of if you pass a law or there's a qualification, but I think that we should have all Christian legislators and Christian presidents and Christian Supreme Court judges. So I would say that's probably my most controversial.
I'd say taboo number one. We've discussed this point in previous spaces. I want to ask you, and Keith, I'm going to go to you in a second, but give me one more, Nicholas, and then we'll go Nick, and then we'll go to Destiny afterwards. The second taboo thing, and I've got a quote here about. I'm going to read out a quote. Could be out of context. Maybe it could be the second one when you said it could be a joke as well. We need to go back to burning women alive more. Again, if I took it out of context, I do apologize. But can you maybe elaborate that quote? And could that be the second most taboo belief that you hold? Which I'd be surprised if you actually hold that belief.
I see your co-host thumbs down that one. I wonder, she didn't like that I said I want to burn women alive. That's obviously a joke. And if you look at the whole context of that clip, I said in a very deadpan way, I'm like, women are casting spells and they're becoming witches. In the Middle Ages, they used to throw them in the river. They used to burn them alive. I'm like, and here they are lying on the stand about, I think in that case it was Johnny Depp. I'm like, they're lying about Johnny Depp casting spells. I'm like, we got to burn these women alive. Obviously a joke.
Oh, okay.
I just hate, okay. Yeah, it's a joke. Okay. Whew. I hate that we live in this hall monitor world. All these people on this panel were all fucking hall monitors, class president type kids. I know Nick Fuentes was, but this it's so bizarre to me because liberals and society in general was so much different a long time ago. Everybody was way more open-minded, way more open in general, and now people are scared of saying the wrong thing. People are scared of saying this to a girl. It's really stupid. I don't want to live in this type of world,
Put that I put that in an extremely bad joke, but yes.
Can I ask Nick a question real quick?
Your reaction is what makes it funny.
Yeah.
I would stand as tribute for you to burn me at the stake, but you'd have to be tied to me.
What would be before Ed and Keith, just 2 seconds. So Nick, what would be the second most taboo belief that you hold? And I want Destiny's thoughts on either of these, whether they should be censored. And I'll ask Ed the same question, and then Keith.
Probably my other one is that race is real. I'm a race realist. I think that there's genetic differences between the races as opposed to everything being environmental. So, I mean, and those are broad categories of like, you know, talking about Jewish people, talking about biological diversity, human biological diversity. That's what people would say is the dissident right. Those are like the two biggest taboo things they believe. And then so for me, I guess that those would probably be the big two.
So, Destiny, these are two beliefs and I'm guessing you disagree with. So should Nick have the right to speak about those two topics on any social media platform, not just X?
I mean, personally, I think that if you're large enough of a social media platform and you're hosting political conversations, I think almost any kind of mainstreamish, like if more than 1% of people believe in it, there should probably be conversation happening about it. So I would say that everything he's brought up, yeah, you should be able to talk about on most mainstream, like social media platforms, assuming political conversations happen here, right? Like if you've got like a social media website for, you know, people talking about, you know, their cats and dogs, then I can understand banning the speech there. But for places like Facebook or X, you know, Twitter, like I can understand people wanting to have those conversations here, and you should be able to. But again, I would like to repeat the same thing I've said a million times. It is so boring that nobody will actually present what it is they actually believe. I don't know if it's strategy or I don't know if it's cowardice, but like
what is it do you think that I'm hiding? I mean,
you just said two things that are objectively true that everybody believes in. Like Jews have a disproportionate.
Jewish people have a Jewish people have a
What am I hiding? I can finish speaking. I can say it.
So well, I can give a reason why people would hide their beliefs on that.
It's also funny too that people like Destiny, these guys, you know, they're always going after these far right commentators because they put conspiracy theories out there. They're so paranoid about the JQ and all this stuff. But Destiny himself has these like hidden suspicions about Nick. You guys are hiding your motive. It's like, how is this any different than conservative people believing that whoever it is, the government or the Democratic Party or whoever it is hiding stuff from us? You know, how is it any different?
I can give a reason why people would hide their beliefs on that. I mean, Destiny.
Wait. If you want to hide your beliefs, that's fine. But then say that. Be like, yo, I'm not going to say what I actually believe because I'm not.
Yeah, but you're muddying the waters because
I can't say it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't.
Go ahead and say it.
I can't. Okay.
Go ahead right now.
Say a minute ago that the Jewish thing was a myth, and that like Jewish people don't have a disproportionate amount of power in the media. And now you're just saying that's objectively true thing.
It's two things, okay? One, Jews obviously have a disproportionate amount, and far more than the media, probably politically.
I'm not hearing what I'm hiding. I'm not hearing what I'm hiding. You made that accusation 3 times. I'm not hearing an example.
Can I finish a sentence? I know you're excited.
Yeah, answer the question. Answer the question. Talking about other stuff.
There goes Stephen Bonelli's sponsors.
Or
paychecks.
Me off like every
No, you're not. You're going in another direction. Name one specific example because you said it now like 5 times.
Yeah,
oh, you're hiding.
I'm gonna have to repeat this. I'm trying to get my answer.
Say it.
Eventually, you'll let me do it. I know you're excited.
Let's hear
it.
Say the example then.
Yes. So the idea that Jews disproportionately represent some part of like the power structures is not the controversial nor the strong claim. That is an objectively true claim that everyone can see. The strong claim is the idea that there is a secret cabal of Jewish people that are working to undermine other races across the world that are coordinating and working through all of those structures of power. That's the controversial belief. That's the thing that you believe in and you preach. But then you come onto these platforms and you give the weak take of like, don't you think that like most of the people's in charge are like kind of more Jewish than like they really should be? Or the same thing with like the race and IQ thing. Like everybody who's reasonable to anything should acknowledge that there's going to be genetic differences, probably even genetic differences between groups of people. But that's not your claim. Your claim is black people are dumber due to genetic reasons on whole versus white people. Like that's the strong claim. You make the weak claim that is like everybody believes in it, but then like the strong claim goes unsaid, and that's usually what people are upset about. Which you can argue.
Yeah, okay. So let me
own up, like man up and own your positions. Don't like say the most milquetoast, like obviously true things ever, and leave all the controversy, behind you. That's weak.
Yeah, see, the difference is that when you say these things, you're rephrasing them in the liberal perception way. You say, well, if you believe in race realism, that means you believe black people are dumb. No, if you believe in human biodiversity, you believe that there are genetic differences between people. IQ is a heritable trait, and blacks have a lower average IQ on average than white people. That's also a statistical fact. That's also true in SAT scores. It's also true in IQ tests globally and in America. I've never hid from that. I said that in front of a crowd of black people at Iowa State. I said that in front of Myron. Hang on, and Myron is here. I said that in front of a panel of all black women on Fresh and Fit.
That's a fact.
Because you're just reframing.
Somebody said in the comments 3 homosexuals debating.
What I'm saying,
I'm not reframing it. You're saying that if
oh, there's Myron. You don't want to make Myron mad. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
If someone believes in genetic differences, then that means that you believe black people are dumb.
No,
and if you say that Jewish people influence society, you believe in a shadowy cabal where they're like evil wizards and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
so it's like, of course I'm not going to say the caricature and the reframing that you're giving it because you disagree. You don't like that people find it persuasive. That's why you put me on a blacklist and said, I will never stream a Nick Fuentes.
Because you're not saying anything controversial.
Then you got to show up to derail and disrupt and say, all the persuasive stuff. Well, he's just lying. There's secret evil views that he has that you just aren't hearing right now. So that's why you're going to break your one rule. You come on the podcast, even though you quote unquote.
I know you're obsessed with comic book villains.
Because as you said, I do like that movie. Because as you said a couple of years ago, you don't like when people like me talk to a large audience. I mean, you're the one that's hiding a political
7 people
agenda.
DM me to come here. Okay, so I decided to come and hang out.
That's weird.
It's a real quick reframing.
Hold on. Ed and Keith, I want to ask you both the same questions. Like seeing that back and forth between Nick and Destiny, is there anything in that back and forth that should have been censored? Is there anything that could have, that could be considered hate speech or could have led to violence and should not be allowed on X or any other platform?
No, look, I think it should be up to the platform itself. If a platform wants to censor certain types of hate speech or certain types of incitement of violence, I think they should be able to do that. Even
despite sorry to interrupt you, Ed, but despite the amount of influence they have now compared to 10, 20 years ago, like if you give them that right now and they all just meet in one room, they can essentially control speech around the world.
Yeah, but I think that's their right as a corporation. I don't,
Ed, what's the platform's primary objective?
The platform's what platform are you referring to?
All of them. Why do social media companies exist? What's the primary objective?
To make money.
To make money. And you're saying that they should be allowed to ban certain speech they don't like if that allows them to make more money, correct?
I believe, as in capitalism, I believe that's the way it should be.
So if Pfizer came along and decided to give a bunch of money to one of these social media platforms, would they allow anti-COVID vaccine conversations and speech or vaccine injury proof on their platform, or would they censor it to make as much money as possible?
I think it's up to them as a corporation to do as they please, just like Donald Trump with Truth Social has censored liberals from his site.
That's fine, but we're talking about people.
I think Elon Musk has the absolute right to run it the way he wants to do it. And under his terms, that is, as long as something doesn't break the law, and I guess that can be subjective to some, like what's going on in Brazil. I think that's his right, and I think if that's the best way to run it, that his platform will probably succeed.
Cool. So vaccine. I understand what you're saying. So vaccine injuries do exist. However, the platform's objective is to make as much money as possible, and Pfizer is funding the platform, so they're going to pretend vaccine injuries do not exist. So they are purporting a false version of reality. They are creating and aiding the matrix and making people believe a version of reality that is not true, primarily for financial profit. And those with the global centralized capital can control narratives and can control the world even at a better level than most political parties. Would you agree with that?
Pfizer is not even worth that much money. Why do we assume Pfizer can control speech on?
It's an example, Destiny.
Yeah, see, so you keep blaming it on the advertiser or a company that's paying these companies. It's up to the media company. It's up to their shareholders what's in the best interest of those companies. That's how capitalism works in America. That's what I think most conservatives embrace. They embrace capitalism. Let the companies make up their own mind. If one business idea is not going to work out, if people don't like that, they're going to move to another platform. And we're seeing that with a lot of people who are moving away from Facebook and onto X because they don't like this level of censorship they're getting on other platforms. So they move to X. Just like the media. Understood. You can watch Fox News. You can watch News Nation. You can watch, there's a plethora of different media outlets that you can consume if you don't like what one media outlet's putting out there. It's not the government saying, oh, the media can't talk about the Pfizer vaccine or say that it has side effects. If that would be an infringement on the First Amendment. But in capitalistic society, these companies can run the way they want without government interference. So if the government starts interfering and saying you can't run your platform how you want, then that's going to be the government interference, and that's going to be against the First Amendment.
Okay, well, that's another argument because there was Twitter files and there's a whole.
And the Twitter files also. The Twitter files showed that a lot of stuff went on. People requested a lot of things to be removed, and Twitter, being a publicly run company, publicly held company, they made up their mind on what they believed was best for their shareholders.
Let me simplify the question. Do you believe the people? So what you're effectively saying, we agree on the fact that those with the money can control certain narratives and how they're perceived and discussed. Would you agree with that?
Those with money definitely have more control. Yes.
Yes, and they can control on a public forum how certain things are perceived and discussed because they have the money. And when I say advertise, what I truthfully mean is donate and lobby. That's what they do. They donate and lobby to platforms.
Yeah,
to get
of course, on certain platforms they can, but on certain platforms they can't. Like, let's say X, for example.
Well, absolutely, because it's free speech. So this is where we're going back into I'm only going back over this because we talked about it earlier when you guys were saying the primary objective of the media is to make money.
That is the primary objective. There's really no arguing that.
Okay, well, if that's their case, then they're going to take money from the large centralized power structures and they're going to purport any false version of reality that it takes them to make as much money as possible. And the people who donated the money to make as much money as possible. Objective truth has nothing to do with anything.
If that's in the best interest of the shareholders, perhaps. I'd like to think that shareholders have an ethical side of things too. And if they see that happening, they're not going to be as interested in investing in that company. So, I think the board of directors and the shareholders are going to have the ultimate say there. And I don't think most people want that.
But do you think you were censored for money?
Their objectives that they're supposed to purport to the populace. Their job is to lie. And to sit and say, well, if they lie, they won't be trusted. Correct. Nobody trusts them. Correct. They've been lying for money all this time. That's exactly where we are. So how is this?
It's just so naive that these guys just put so much trust in the media. They would never lie. I mean, I learned that when I was like 10 years old. I mean, I don't know.
It's confusing for anybody.
When does a media outlet become the mainstream media or part of the mainstream media? At what point?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, you have state broadcasters for a lot of countries, and I'm sure that in each different country, you have their state broadcaster with their particular narrative they want to push and enforce. I'm sure the Chinese state broadcaster and the Russian state broadcaster and the British state broadcaster will look at the same series of events with a completely different spin and a completely different narrative that they'll try and push to the populace, which they think is best in their national interest, which means it comes from above. It's not organic. It's not just accidental. They put together the narratives they're told to, and they push it to the population. They're professional liars.
Yeah, but don't you think that every media outlet wants to reach that point of being considered the mainstream media because that means they're the biggest media in the country? So at a certain point, you become part of the mainstream. At a certain point, you become part of the mainstream media, right? So at that point, do you just start lying? I mean, it's a ridiculous.
And they're all owned by one group. I'm not gonna say who.
What's ridiculous to say that there's like a free market for media. There's 5 major conglomerates don't own most of the media. So to pretend this idea of they're rising and falling and they're in competition. There's like 5 major
they rise and fall.
They control most of the media. And there is some within margin, but nobody would ever say that some tiny publication that could be founded by an individual is going to blow up and compete with the big 5 conglomerates like News Corp and 21st Century Fox and Disney. So it's just...
And they wouldn't let it. Guys, let's be hyper realistic here. I said earlier about the control of people and influence over people is the only true war. Tanks and bullets are the final last resort to do that. It's much easier to use social media and narrative control and the MSM, et cetera, to control a populace as opposed to putting them all at gunpoint. The idea that you can just stand up and tell the truth and you're going to have a broadcasting organization inside of the UK bigger than the BBC, and you're just going to talk against the government and you're just going to tell the truth and be Mr. Honest, and they're going to let you get bigger than the BBC without catching a fucking bullet is asinine. Look at what's happening to people who have Twitter accounts. Not just my story, Nick's story, Alex Jones' story. There's a bunch of people with Twitter accounts who end up in a cell for having a Twitter account, let alone a broadcasting corp. To sit and believe that, oh, who becomes the mainstream and you can just go and make a news channel and maybe you'll get in. It's one big club and you're not in it.
So Andrew, you haven't answered my question before. So when you say they, the mainstream media, are you talking about, let's say, Chris Cuomo when he was on CNN? Are you talking, like, is he being fed this information that he's only allowed?
Well, I'll be honest. I'll be very honest with you what I think of mainstream.
What we're talking about is this. Do you see it? There's people out. There's conspiracy theories out there that I am Jewish. I'm not Jewish. I've done the DNA test. I got no Jew, no Ashkenazi, so you guys can chill out.
News broadcasters. I think they're idiots who are dragged from obscurity and they sit down in front of a teleprompter, and I think anybody can do their job. And Don Lemon's monumental failure has proved that perfectly, because since he left CNN, nobody's given a shit. I think he has 500 views on any of his videos. He's some random idiot.
I have more views than Don Lemon, by the way.
They plucked from obscurity, sat him down, he read the teleprompter. It's not about who reads the teleprompter, sir. It's about who decides what's on the teleprompter.
It's not about who reads the teleprompter, sir. It's player versus player. We live in a world, gentlemen.
First place. That's the actual discussion we're having here. It's nothing to do with which jackass. Because sit down and read
so many of those shows that individual, whoever has that show, they have their team, and they're not necessarily being fed everything they have to say. They're allowed to have opinions themselves. See, this is
my friend. My friend. And I call you my friend.
I'm glad you're calling me your friend.
By the fact I'm about to call you an idiot. Because you're an idiot, sir.
Tucker Carlson said the exact same thing, that he had basically full editorial privilege.
Didn't Tucker get...
I don't know how you can recover from Tate calling you an idiot. I would go, if Tate called me an idiot on a public Twitter space with the most famous e-celebs ever, I might go out in hiding. You would not see me ever again. Because the war room took care of me. It's player versus player. Gentleman. My friend.
Fired for having an opinion that went outside of the narrative?
No, Tucker got fired because he almost cost Fox News $1 billion for lying on air. It's funny that you defend the fact that he had an original opinion. What you're actually defending is misinformation and lies, which is supposed to be something you guys are...
Misinformation. I do not want to hear the word misinformation ever again. I saw a video recently. It was a recent interview with Hank Green. Remember Hank Green? I fucking love science. That guy, John Green's brother. He made a video recently saying that, or he was interviewed on a podcast recently saying that, YouTube and TikTok should no longer be like a free-for-all websites, and that they should just they need to be like monitored. All the users need to be approved, fact-checked before they even upload a video. I mean, how ridiculous.
They're against, I thought.
Which opinion was this? That's not what I heard. Tell me, please.
The Fox News, the Dominion lawsuit. There were texts that were leaked from him where he admitted that he was lying on air about claims that Sidney Powell had made to him, and he was tired of lying to his audience about things about the Dominion voting machines being rigged.
Well, I don't know. That's
you don't know anything because you don't read media. That's why you're out here saying things like they get marching orders from everybody. You don't know how any of these media companies are structured. You don't know where the teams get their information from. People that work in media are the most like social media hungry people in the universe. You think that all these people in all these networks across all these countries are getting fed the same marching orders and nobody's leaked anything, nobody's complained about anything, nobody's said anything? And why do we think that mainstream media is any more insulated from these problems than alternative media is? You guys will make fun of the marching orders from mainstream media, but I bet every single alternative media guy in here is anti-vax, thinks COVID.
There is, now that is the thing, he has a point, kinda, I will give him that it is funny that we make fun, like people make fun of and bash mainstream media so much, but they think alternative platforms are the ultimate truth, but that's not necessarily the case, you know. There's people on alternative platforms that lie and push agendas and are paid off by people. But here's the thing. How you know something is true, you have to look at multiple, I'm going to use the Reddit word, sources. The mainstream news, the alternative news, Joe Schmo down the street, Twitter, some guy filming a video on Twitter of some event happening. All of those, if everybody agrees that this one thing is real, then it's real. That's how you know. If you got two sources that are iffy, one source that's iffy, you better question it.
COVID came from a bioweapons lab, thinks that Russia has a right to invade Ukraine, thinks that all the charges against Donald Trump are made up, thinks that we shouldn't be supporting Israel. Like, you guys have literally copy-pasted the same opinions between every single one of you, and you guys are talking like an army of NPCs about how the mainstream media gives you, like, fabricated opinions. Like, it doesn't even make sense.
Yes, we do all think the truth. That is
crazy how truth could be a perspective there, huh? But when you all think the same thing, it's not a conspiracy, but the mainstream media does. It is a conspiracy. Crazy how that works.
Conflicting points of view. I just said that different state-sponsored broadcasters would have conflicting.
But they don't. Do you watch any media? Have you followed any media? They don't.
Of course, if you watch
when you're reporting on international media, the stories are more or less the same.
Segment and a BBC segment, they often directly conflict.
No, very rarely. On the facts, no. Maybe if you're watching a pundit or you're reading op-eds, they will. But if you have any amount of media literacy, a really great example that works against your Israel stuff, by the way, was the reporting of that Al.
Imagine like sitting around watching the news all day or reading news articles all day. That's your job. How lame.
Policy hospital bombing, where everybody was saying that Israel bombed.
Remember that video a while back when Destiny was talking about his divorce with Melina, which I don't know what happened to that. I guess there's stuff still going on with that. It's just a lot of legal stuff they can't talk about. I don't know. But he said that him and Melina got in an argument, and that the whole time she was arguing with him, she was throwing out all these fallacies and all this shit. And he said that I'm like Neo from the Matrix. I dodge all her arguments in bullet time. And I kept asking her, do you have a source for that? I'm not joking. He said that on live in front of like 6,000 people. Ridiculous.
On that parking lot, every single mainstream media outlet in the world ran with that story for 2 days. I mean, how did that work if Israel controls the media? Or how does that work if they all give conflicting accounts and reports? It's because they don't. It's because everybody relies on, like, people that are reporting on the ground. It goes through their media teams. They publish what they think is right. Sometimes people fuck up. There doesn't have to be a top-down conspiracy to explain why.
They did change the headlines very quickly, Destiny.
After more information came out. Yes, sir. That's how it works.
When fake news came out.
This is so naive. There have been so many lies specifically about wars. It's insane that you would even bring that up. Before the 2020 election.
Destiny, I don't know if he still is. Destiny is the type of guy that thinks OJ didn't do it because the jury said so. That was the verdict or whatever. That he's that kind of guy. I remember Destiny was saying that what's it called? What's that thing in the Vietnam War? fucking what's that operation? The operation that started the Vietnam War that the U.S. was responsible for. That was considered a conspiracy theory for a long time, but then like 15 years ago, they came out and said, yeah, it happened. It was America was involved with that. You learn it, and nowadays you learn it in high school classrooms. We learned about it. He says on he said a while back on his stream that that's his that's not real. That's fake. It's like, dude, and this is a guy that goes on Wikipedia a lot. You know, it's literally all over Wikipedia. Like, nobody's hiding it. This is not a is it the Gulf of Tonkin incident? Is that what it is? I don't remember. It's something like that. Ridiculous, dude. Yes, Destiny is the type of guy that thinks OJ didn't do it. He's that kind of guy.
There was a big story about how Russians were putting a bounty on the...
He believes Epstein actually killed himself. That's what I'm saying. He believes everything the mainstream media says, regardless. He is the most pro-mainstream media guy. I'm tired of people saying he's this controversial, provocateur type figure. No, he's not. He is the polar opposite. Even Hassan and Vosh, who I think are worse than Destiny, are more of edgy, provocateur type figures, in my opinion.
Head of American soldiers in Iraq. You remember this? And they said Trump is allying with Russia, who's killing our soldiers. Then a year after, and by the way, that's after the election, they came out and said, yeah, that wasn't true. They came out and said, see, well, we source our intelligence on the ground. Some of it has a high degree of confidence and some of it has a low degree. And this one had no degree of confidence. But it took them a year to correct it after it had already served its purpose. Same thing with the Hunter Biden laptop. They totally put the lid on that one because they said, we were told it's Russian disinformation. Turned out to be authentic after the election. Just like the 40 beheaded babies.
Whenever you hear something, it's like the TikTok ban thing. Whenever you hear something involving Russians, the Chinese, it's fake. The Russians and the Chinese don't give a shit about TikTok or anything. Like, they don't give a fuck, dude. They got their own shit going on. I mean, yeah, they do have spies and shit like that, but for the most part, they have their own shit going on. I can't believe people are still fucking talking about the Russian collusion. I mean, these people are super fucking ridiculous. They think real life is like a fucking shitty Hollywood movie.
40 beheaded babies! 40 babies and their heads are off! I can't believe it. And then they found out in December, after Israel had already invaded, after they blockaded Gaza, after everything, they said, oh yeah, that was all fabricated. It's a complete lie. Same thing with Ukraine. I remember when we debated, they said Russia blew up a nuclear reactor because they're trying to do another Chernobyl. Turned out that was bullshit. So those are just like off the top of my head. 5 examples about 3 different conflicts where, they report it. It serves its purpose, and then they revise it a year later after they got what they wanted. And you, because you believe their alibi, because you don't understand the distinction between power and powerless, between government and people, you say, no, I think they got more information. They found out that the propaganda that they created for their efficient purpose, they found out that was a lie because, these are just really earnest people like you and I trying to get it right, as opposed to very interested parties in government, finance, wherever you find it. So those are just a few examples off the top of my head. They learn more information, just like in Iraq,
maybe
right?
People
they
just
learned there were no weapons of mass destruction in
it's
Iraq.
possible because it happened on the other side too. How many people were saying, there's no way that Russia's going to invade Ukraine? That's bullshit. The U.S. intelligence must be lying because Nick said that they lie about the intel.
It's also very important to note that Destiny was a long time ago. A lot of people don't know this. Destiny was a neocon. Before anything else, he was a neocon. That says everything about this guy.
the time. Well, guess what? That happened. Oh, well, there are no fighters in Al-Shifa Hospital. That can't possibly be the case. Oh, whoops, we found CCTV footage that shows otherwise. Oh, no, hydroxychloroquine is a way better drug than remdesivir. Like, oh, this is going to be the ivermectin is going to save all of us. Oh, looks like none of that was true. Oh, people get things wrong. Some people lie. Like, you have to be intelligent enough to call out fault. That wasn't even a syllogism.
That's a false syllogism.
No, yes, it is. Even a syllogism, dipshit. Listen, people get things wrong sometimes. You have to be more intelligent. You got to be more sophisticated when you go through media. You have to understand sometimes people fuck up and they get shit wrong. Sometimes people do lie. But why the fuck would you trust people who in alternative media who are like teams of like 1 to 4 highly ideologically driven people versus entire media conglomerates that are being fact checked or have like, dozens or sometimes hundreds of workers in some of these offices? Like the ability for you to lie
about
is going to be way higher.
How much do you know about the CIA's history of influencing media?
Because amazing question. I don't know. How much do you know about?
I often don't hear people like you and Ed and Brian digging into the history of the national intelligence state directly influencing media. Like
because
through history. I don't mean necessarily today.
History is different. Like if you want to talk about U.S. foreign policy between like the 40s and before the fall of the Soviet Union, that's going to be a different type of foreign policy, a different approach than our foreign policy over the past like 34 years. Also, the ability to sneak or hide different things is going to be different when everybody is carrying around a video camera and a recorder. Like the ability to do things covertly is a lot easier back in the day when people were typewriting to each other or.
Like the Hunter Biden
I have to go. So I want to ask.
Yeah, do your thing, Andrew.
Sorry, brother. I have to go. So I just want to ask a really quick question. Destiny, I want to understand your worldview because you and I have a different worldview, it seems, especially on girlfriends, etc. But we won't go down that path. Do you think it would?
Andrew and Destiny have a very similar worldview when it comes to girlfriends. They love polyamory or open relationships. Well, Andrew Tate's, I think, polyamorous or one-sided polyamorous. I don't know. It's all stupid. Just have one bitch. I mean, it's just. And Andrew Tate said liking pussy's gay, and I don't know. I think it's gay to have 10 different girlfriends. What a headache.
Would be prudent and professional for a country to allow its state broadcaster, which speaks to its populace, to report whatever it wanted and whatever it discovered without any kind of moderation or input, even if it was directly adverse to the goals and aims of the national security of said country or the military industrial complex of that country. Do you think they would allow the state broadcaster to just report whatever it wanted fairly without anyone telling them what to say or any narratives to hold, even if it's directly counter to the interests of very powerful entities within that nation? Do you believe that we operate in a world that fair?
Because
do you think that would be prudent and professional?
Confidence is a valuable thing. And if your country doesn't trust you, doesn't trust the media, if it doesn't trust the leaders, and if you've got ways to hold them accountable, like via voting, then yeah, if you fuck around with your population and people find out, you're going to be held accountable for it. Arguably, that's why Trump won his election. You can say that like, oh, well, the media lies to everybody and everybody lies to everybody. That might be true. Fine. Then why the fuck should we believe anything any of you guys say, right? At that point, you're in an epistemic, nihilistic black hole of nothingness where you can't believe anybody.
The fact that you believe a country X, will have military aims, it will have agricultural aims, it will have political ambitions, it will have trade aims, whatever they are, to compete in this globalized market, and they need their population to believe a certain point of view to be as competitive as possible against the other nations, and they're just going to allow their state broadcaster to broadcast whatever they want, even if it's counter to their own narratives and interests, is so ridiculously naive. That's not
it's
what
not
happened.
naive. You don't even understand how markets work.
Let me just finish because I'm about to drive. I'm about to drive, my friend.
That companies with a market cap of $100 billion have more say in our government than like Apple.
The Daily Mail starts talking about war with Russia in the UK only a fucking couple months ago. Endless war with Russia, conscription, how it needs to happen. On a dime, all of the BBC, all of the British news starts talking about how important it is to go to war with Russia because that's the aim that they had from their military industrial complex. And the broadcaster and the media arm of the government works directly with their foreign policy aims. It's all directly going together. Not a single newspaper printed, this is dumb shit. Nobody should go to get their ass whooped by the Russians. Not a single one, because they are not allowed to.
If that's the case, then
They're
why
not
didn't
allowed.
Trump shut down all negative media about him when he was president? If that's the case, why didn't Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or Barack Obama shut down all negative media about them? You guys bring up the best counterexample to you is that Hunter Biden laptop story. Why did that get censored for one day? Why wasn't that story completely killed?
Oh yeah, that wasn't heavily
Wait. Why wasn't that story
wasn't,
killed completely? That is the most talked about story. Your example of media censorship is like the most talked about story in the past 10 years of online media.
It's talked about online on social media, yes, but it was suppressed in the MSM. Which
no, it was suppressed on Twitter.
You're right.
No,
the New York Post
in every story by doing what Nick says.
The big deal about Twitter the big deal about the New York Post story was it being suppressed on Twitter and Facebook, but it came back in like a day. So the question is, if the government able to control things so well, why didn't they shut that story down completely?
Destiny, let me ask you a question on that. Isn't that because they censored it because there was a specific reason to do so? Because the reason you censor it is because you want the election to go in a certain way. Once the election's over,
didn't the intel agencies tell them to do that? Didn't the intel agencies tell them to suppress that?
No, if you actually read the Twitter files, I know how much you hate reading.
51 CIA experts.
No, they didn't. No. Nobody told Twitter to censor the New York Post story. They literally leaked the emails where they talk about censoring the story. I don't know why you guys say the intelligence agencies told them to do it.
So all of the mainstream media all ran with "this has been debunked," and they all cited the letter that came from the National Security State, which was signed by 51 intel operatives.
They didn't.
I love that Destiny's like thinking the Hunter Biden story is fake. Like, everybody and their moms knows that story's. Maybe it is made up though. I don't know, but we all know that Hunter Biden's a crackhead. This isn't some like out there shit. It's everybody knows. It's not controversial to know that story or to think it's real at all.
Didn't say that it was debunked. They said it looked like Russian misinformation.
Exactly.
If you're honest,
and so then they
did.
started all of their articles with that statement in order to frame it in the exact same way that Nick was saying that every article about Nick is framed by the first sentence being Nicholas J. Fuentes, this, evil things, so that when you read the article, you're pre-framed to believe Nick Fuentes is an evil human, or you're pre-framed to believe that the Hunter Biden laptop is Russian disinformation.
It looked like a fishy story. Any honest actor, like I'm pretty sure at this point we all know the laptop story is real, but even looking at it,
it's like a fishy story.
Yeah, obviously.
Everyone in the space knew
the
it was
idea
real
that
already.
Hunter Biden dropped off a laptop years ago to like a blind computer store owner, yeah, that is a sensational story. That sounds like bullshit. It still sounds like bullshit, even if it's true. But again, like the deep state has so much control sometimes, like censoring stories, but it couldn't have prevented the New York Post from publishing it. Why? It couldn't go and like take that hard drive out of Giuliani's.
Because
Giuliani had balls.
Oh
my God. So it only takes one journalist to shut down the entire, also, by the way, like a quasi mainstream media journalist. This is the New York Post. It's not like we're talking about, like a small YouTube channel or something, right? So even
balls
the
to
New York
publish that story, and then the entire media narrative had to shift in order to discredit the story as quickly as humanly possible. And the entire national security complex mobilized and got 51 of their top experts, like ex-director of the CIA, ex-director of the NSA, the people that had architected their entire national security state, the people that had lied to us about torture, that had lied to us about WMD.
Yes, I understand. You can talk about things from 20 years ago. That's fine. But
to discredit the story as quickly as possible.
And look who broke it. The most mainstream media people in the world. Giuliani had a copy of the drive. This is a mainstream ex-mayor of New York. And then the New York Post, a mainstream media publication. Giuliani was not mainstream. How old are you?
So let me ask Nicholas.
I want to hear this. Wait, hold on. I want to hear this. You don't think the New York Post counts as mainstream media, and you don't think Giuliani wasn't a mainstream political figure in the United States of America?
New York Post absolutely counts as mainstream media. What I'm saying is that a singular journalist got the scent, got the trail, and decided to write the story. And the New York Post,
but I'm asking, how is that possible?
Stop.
And that was a mainstream media publication. How would that be possible? The CIA and the NSA and the FBI are controlling all these things.
You clearly haven't done a lot of research on how the CIA actually do influence.
And your mic is really bad, but just so what you're saying, Destiny, is that the letter that was signed by
Mario?
Go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
Saying is that when you actually research how the CIA influences journalists, it's not like journalists are literal robots where the CIA has a literal game controller where they actually like move their mouths. They peddle influence through payoffs or through like promotions or through just making friendships. Like, it's not as simple as just saying we literally control everything that everyone says. That's not how the world works.
No, it's not. Hold on, no, wait. It's easier to censor one story by like contacting a journalist and threatening his family than it would be to falsely get like every single intelligence agency or like 51 different officials on board with censoring a story. It doesn't make sense. It would be way easier to get the one journalist guy like to just like show up at his house and steal the drive.
Experts work for them.
You have that because technically Americans don't really give a fuck what happens in other countries as much as their own. So you could get away with influencing other countries more than your own. Yeah, of course. But the reality is that like if you get caught doing these lies, you pay huge fucking repercussions for it. Like a lot of the country's politics.
What have they paid for COVID? What have they paid for COVID? What have they paid for the Vietnam War? What have they paid for
the media coverage for the Vietnam War was harmful to U.S. institutions. That's one of the reasons why we left Vietnam. If we controlled the media, we would have stayed in Vietnam until we saw it through. Media pressure was one of the reasons we left. Look at how unpopular the Iraq War became. You don't think Obama wanted to take a more active role in the Middle East? He couldn't because the American public fucking hates everything in the Middle East after the Iraq War. What are you talking about? Yeah, American public heavily influences our capability of operating in different theaters of war. After Iraq and Afghanistan, we have no appetite for it.
Okay. Is this supposed to be about being unbanned, or is this about the number one fucking news media truster to defend the State Department's agenda? Like, I don't even know what this is about anymore.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. I mean, because I thought the purpose of this space was discussing Nick's censorship. I mean, this is like a civics lecture now from the Krasensteins and Destiny. Like, it's really interesting. People might not realize this, but yeah, Destiny has blacklisted Nick for the last few years to try and stifle his popularity.
What do you mean? Blacklisted? I'll ask.
Hold on.
Ask Keith. Keith, question. Yeah, question to you, Keith. Because I asked Destiny the question earlier. How did he blacklist him? What does that mean?
Why did I blacklist him?
Yeah, so Destiny refused to stream with Nick. He didn't want to help grow his popularity. Nick comes back in a day. He surpasses him on Twitter followers. And Destiny goes back to his old tactic of showing up on a Nick stream and reading Wikipedia articles, trying to make him sound bad to his guests. I mean, the central point here is supposed to be Nick's censorship. And, Destiny makes this point. He's like, oh, well, these people, they defend free speech, but then they don't want to come out and be honest about their beliefs.
This is the easiest truth test forever, right here. Like, tell me, why did I blacklist Nick?
Well, hold on.
You admit it? Can either of you admit it? No, you're going to keep pivoting.
Is he just going to keep interrupting me? I mean, he's been speaking for the last hour and a half, dominating this space.
Make him answer the question.
Go ahead, Keith. Yeah, answer the question and then continue, Keith, with the point you're making.
So Destiny says, they get censored, they send them for free speech, and they're scared to come out with their beliefs. Well, he's ignoring the fact that Destiny got his followers to mass report Nick in I think it was 2019-20 to get him banned off Twitch, because Destiny is aware of this double standard that exists for people on the right versus
Destiny, I'll go back to you to respond right after. Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, Destiny got his followers in the past to mass report Nick, to get him banned, to take away the competition, because he knows this double standard exists. And, Destiny will come on these streams and he'll say, of course I believe in free speech. And in the past he said, well, look, you're going to get censored if you say shit people find offensive. That's just kind of how society works. Like Nick said, Destiny has said, Palestinians, I'm fine with them being genocided. Hassan, who's probably the biggest leftist streamer now, I saw just a couple of weeks ago, he posted the schematic of a weapon as a quote tweet to a politician, suggesting his followers should engage in violence against the politician. Now, there wasn't an SPLC hit piece, there wasn't an ADL hit piece shopped around, because they know there's obviously a double standard that operates here. This isn't some free market where the companies are looking at these individual streamers, these individual personalities, deciding who to work with. I mean, Nick used the perfect example during Bandy ADL. All of these mainstream media outlets rushed to get this out that, of the 10,000 tweets I've made, that they found one that was a joke about being an anti-Semite and self-avowed anti-Semite. I can give her another example. Recently I was censored off a couple of payment processors after a Media Matters hit piece. Media Matters hit piece references an SPLC hit piece that says I'm a Holocaust denier. Now, I've literally never made a public statement about the Holocaust in my life, right? It's illegal in most of Europe. But that is shopped around. Leftists send these to payment processors. They send these to platforms.
Did they include sorry to interrupt, did they include a quote, or did they just make that statement without any quote, without any...
No. The original article that it goes back to, which is shopped around to all these various outlets now, there's no link, there's no quote. It's just put there by leftist activists. That is used to censor people. And what you realize about censorship is, there's no debate or discussion going around here. These employees get these pieces handed to them by organizations that are supposed to have a reputation like the ADL, the SPLC, and they just hit the button. And, it's easy to come in with this kind of sort of naive pluralist worldview where we're in this free market of ideas and companies are just acting in their
we got the philosophy
self-interest.
lesson. Why is Nick? Why did I blacklist Nick?
You blacklisted him to stop his popularity.
Okay, so I blacklisted Nick because I'm a big free speech advocate online, and I have been for, I think, probably like 6 or 7 years.
Did you direct your followers to get Nick banned?
And Nick Fuentes, I haven't tried to get Nick banned in like 7 years. I had a huge conversation with him on Twitch. I was part of the hosting of that conversation. I didn't try to get him banned.
To mass report Nick.
Like 8 years.
I understand if Destiny is annoyed at certain people he's debated with in the past, but I think it's hilarious that he has this blacklist. I've seen the Google Doc. He has this Google document which is like a blacklist, and I think the document's literally black. Like the page color's black, and it's so overdramatic. Like, and it has like all the reasons why each person is blacklisted. And it'll be like John Zerka, flat earther. It's so fucking gay. But, you know, he's Neo. He's the Neo in this Matrix. And Andrew Tate is our Morbius. Is that his name? Isn't that what's his name's character? I don't remember. I haven't watched those movies in forever, so.
Years ago. Yeah, my values have changed since then.
It keeps changing.
I'm not. No, I haven't changed it. I literally hosted a huge debate with Nick. But the reason why Nick is blacklisted, the reason why I blacklisted Nick is because as of a year ago, Nick and his group of people spam report people. You can go and watch it on the Ralph Retort. You can go and watch it on shows he's on. And he says, well, if people spam report me, I'm going to spam report them, which is ironically why I spam reported conservatives of the 2016-2017 period, because you guys spam reported everybody else too. Even large conservative figures would try to cancel other people. James Wood, the Guardians of the Galaxy dude, got canceled by fucking what? Cernovich digging up 10-year-old fuck.
Oh my god. Okay, so Destiny references James Woods, and the first movie he can think of is Guardians of the Galaxy. You know how many fucking good movies James Woods has been in? Let's pull it up. James Woods filmography. A lot of people think of Family Guy. James Woods was in... Let's see. He was in... The Virgin Suicides, which is not that great a movie. Vampires. Casino. He was in Hercules. Casino. Chaplin. Once Upon a Time in America. Videodrome. I mean... Guardians of the Galaxy... Wait. Yeah, like... Was he even in Guardians of the Galaxy? Oh, James... Oh my god. He called James Gunn James Woods. Oh my god, dude. He got them mixed up. Fucking hilarious.
Way. You say, well, if you believe in race realism, that means you believe black people are dumb. No, if you believe in human biodiversity...
What the fuck? It completely threw me back.
Obama administration. These organizations are really an extension of the regime. And to take this kind of naive attitude that this is just sort of civil society functioning as it does, and it's free market making decisions about who to sponsor, it's just totally naive. So that's why I think it's it's a watershed moment that Nick is back on, because I think he has become the litmus test as someone who is, the most attacked by these organizations, the most lied about. And he's really the only one that's come out the other side of censorship bigger than before,
Yeah, that's just the issue with Tate. Tate's right on about a lot of things, but he's just not specific when he talks about the Matrix. Who is it? Who is it, Andrew? We all know who the Matrix is.
Individuals like Alex Jones have been heavily censored.
Yeah, and Alex Jones will not talk about this shit. The most famous conspiracy theorist of all time that has said the most wildest shit will not go anywhere near these topics, or he will, because he's talked about this stuff on the show. Obviously, he's had Nick on, obviously the Yay thing, but Alex is so scared of giving an opinion and his thoughts on this topic.
Answered Andrew Tate, but Nick has really come back bigger than 3-4 years ago. And it's at the point where, despite all the censorship, I think everyone has to recognize he's a part of the public conversation. You know, Piers Morgan regularly name drops him. People mention his meeting with Trump. So, you know, Elon here is making, I think,
So let me just based on what you said, because I think you made a very important point here. And Nick, let me ask you a question based on what Keith said. Obviously, as a side note about Al Ahli Baptist Hospital, we know Israel did it, and we know Al Shifa didn't have those. Let me ask Nick a question.
Just something came up, just 2 seconds. You remember how, I can't remember who it was, the joke that Nick made earlier, the quote, "You're right, we can't compare loving Hitler to loving Destiny. Destiny is far worse." We just saw just a prominent account snip that and say Nick Fuentes to Mario Nofo, and then they put that quote there, without putting out the full context that it's a joke. I think it's a perfect. I think so. I think so. I just want to make it clear. Yeah, I just want to make it clear. This is I think it's a bad joke. I think Nick even thinks it's a bad joke. He might disagree. He might think it's a good joke. I think it's a bad joke, but it's a joke nonetheless, whether it's good or bad. I think anyone that snips it, anyone on Twitter that thinks that.
I'm tired of this whole debating if jokes are good or bad, or in good or in bad taste. I'm so tired of this. Can we just stop being like cocks about jokes?
Snippet and post it pretending it's not a joke. It's participating in censorship, or at least tarnishing one's image.
Right, Mario? Because he's literally saying you guys are taking my jokes out of context and making it seem like these are my ideological positions. And then we have that happen in real time. So if anything, it just proves his point.
And Mario, you see what didn't go viral? Someone saying, "I hate Islam with every fiber in my body." Nobody clips that, and it does not go viral anywhere. You see the clear hypocrisy, the clear double standard.
Here's the thing. This is perfectly encapsulates what happens with Nick, right? Nick gets censored, and anyone that works with him gets censored as a byproduct of platforming him. That's why most people are pussies and don't platform Nick, because they're scared of getting something like that just happen to them. This literally is quintessentially proves what we've been talking about.
But Nick, can I say
to a degree, and they censor anyone that platforms him, and they try to say.
Sorry, I can't hear Suleiman right now.
No, Myron is speaking. But Nick, can I just say, sorry, Sully, I know I took the mic from you. I'm going to give it back to you. But Nick, can I just kind of put it on you? When you make jokes like this, aren't you really asking for it?
No, I think that's totally ridiculous. I think that, this is like the person that gets abused by the battered wife. Well, what did you say? Or the rape victim. I'm raped. I've been raped. No, I'm kidding. So that's an edgy joke. But it really is. Do we have a free society or don't we? Do we all have the same rights? Can we all make jokes? Can we all use rhetoric? Can we all speak freely? I haven't said a joke that's more offensive than, for example, some people like Lil Nas X dancing on Jesus. If Lil Nas X got killed by like a bunch of Christians because they don't like the blasphemy, would you look at that guy and say, well, he had it coming, that he did that? I mean, or any other.
Nick, how many people do you think died? How many Jews died in the Holocaust?
Okay, am I just going to be interrupted the whole time?
Bro,
you
gambled.
You
literally yapped more than anyone else here.
How many people?
Guys, 2 seconds.
Totally ridiculous.
So, Nick, I'll let you finish your point. So then I'll give you the mic because I know I took it from you. Destiny, I appreciate coming on stage and creating this debate. But we'll just take a bit of a break. Nick, I'll let you finish your point. We'll go to Sully, and Destiny will go back to you in a bit.
So no, I think that's totally ridiculous. And I think that, and the other thing is, it's dishonest. And that's to Keith's point and Sneako's point is everybody can watch my stream and discern when I'm joking and when I'm not. Even you did. You who disagree with me on most things can acknowledge that my joke about Destiny being worse than Hitler is clearly a joke. Not for people that clip it and then want to use that to deplatform me. That's precisely what happened the first time. I go on a space, I say something, they clip it, they use it. And as Sneeko said, people like Destiny or Hassan can go on other streams and they can say outrageous things. There's no clips. There's no SPLC researcher. There's no censorship. So it's really a question of, if you're right wing, are you so handicapped that, it's just like Harrison Bergeron. You can't say anything. You're constantly interrupted, constantly the language is policed and so on. So no, I have an edgy sense of humor. And more to it, a lot of people say I'm funnier than comedians. I don't know if I agree with that, but the point is we live in this climate where that is a substantial thing that's been removed from society. People can't be funny because they can't take risks. People that have more clout or people that are more mainstream than me, people like Shane Gillis as a good example. One of the funniest people around, recognized at this point, gets removed from the conversation because he's got the wrong politics or made the wrong type of a joke. So this, aren't you asking for it, is like an insane totalitarian mindset, in my opinion. And it'd be one thing if I was one of these guys like the Blood Tribe that you see at these protests where they got a vein bulging out of their head and they're screaming, obscenities and racial slurs and that, that might be one thing. I don't know, in terms of free speech, but I could understand why that people might be put off by that. But obvious jokes about things where everybody's laughing, or even if I'm just laughing, I think we can recognize that's part of the conversation. The bigger picture is who is behind the censorship. It's not that I didn't get kicked off Twitter because there was a grassroots, organic, mass support because they didn't like my jokes or they didn't find it humorous. I got banned from Twitter because there are groups, as Keith said, that since the time I was 18 years old have effectively been spying on me, watching everything, paid for it with the stated intention. I mean, that's their goal of getting me censored because of the political things that I say. And that that's the case. As Keith said, that you can't believe the alibi or the cover story because of the inconsistency. They don't do this to left-wing people. They don't enforce it against left-wing people because it's a matter of ideological censorship. If it was about the thing in itself, Hassan would be banned for posting a bomb schematic, obviously. And there are numerous other example. Even regular conservatives can point this out. So,
nobody denies
everything. It's
double
political.
standard.
Nick, just a quick question. Nick, just a quick question, right? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you've explained from a social media perspective, right? And even people have mentioned about this, your joke being taken out of context and clipped. What about from the mainstream media perspective and organizations such as ADL? If those organizations are up in arms about what they believe is hate speech, why is it, for example, they've come after you, they've made hit pieces against you, the ADL have come after you, but like, for example, not to mention Destiny again, but his extreme Islamophobia has been left unanswered. So and does that then not, that's the first part, and the second part of the question, does that then not add more merit to your argument that there are certain people who are having control of the media, having control of the narrative?
100%. And I'll even match you another example. Criticize Israel, then Dave Rubin blocks you on Twitter, attacks you on Twitter, and calls your boss and tries to get you fired. All of a sudden, he wants to burn the books. Now we can't have a conversation. There are some things that we can't talk about.
Why isn't Hassan banned? Why isn't Hassan banned? He's the largest political streamer on Twitch and has huge platforms on other, huge things on other platforms. Why isn't Hassan banned, who is insanely anti-Israel?
Hassan isn't platformed by Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson.
He's platformed by Twitch, which is represented by Amazon, which is it's got to be the most Jew-controlled fucking organization in the world. Why doesn't Hassan get banned? He's had ADL things.
I'm not talking about platforms.
You said that if you don't represent, so you don't think the ADL or any of the platform bans have to do with not towing the Israeli line?
Try getting it out. I'm talking specifically about Shapiro and Peterson.
Yeah, because you're talking specifically about it now because it contradicts your point. You're yapping for 3 minutes. You won't own any point.
After you held the floor for an hour.
I haven't held the floor for anything. You interrupted me so many times. You're so.
What is the point?
Oh my god.
Nick, I'm gonna. George, you've heard Nick's joke earlier, and I saw one of your comments. You weren't too happy with it. Do you think jokes like this? Do you think anything that Nick said so?
Answer a single question.
Yeah, I would let me. I will go back to you. I promise. Nick, I want to back and forth between you and Brian on Brian's particular point before going to Mr. Santos again. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, me too. And I'll make it brief, but a statement like that is Jews are different than Christians, and they have lived in segregation or in conflict or in other ways with each other because they're not Christian. It is a Christian value that we say we love everybody. We love even our enemies. We love everybody. Jewish people say sometimes I think there was an article written in First Things recently by some Zionists, and they said, actually, there's a virtue in hatred. There's a virtue in hating the Palestinians or hating Hamas and things like that. And so that does reflect a fundamental difference of values. And when I say, and Christians believe that evil is the Antichrist, the essence of good and God and love is selflessness. The opposite of that is selfishness, pride. So our adversary is not actually Hitler, it's the devil. It's the Antichrist. And the model of good is God. It seems like there's this parallel, separate moral system that's been created where in some people's minds, Hitler is the devil. And I guess Israel is the angel or something. Like that seems to be the people that are the most evil are the ones that are the most like Hitler. And the goodest people, the best people, the most good, well, they're the ones that are the least racist, the least this. I think that's like an obfuscation. I think that obfuscates the fundamental moral equation for Christians. So when I say, and when me and Ye said that,
I do want to go to just let me get Brian to push back. So let me just ask a question. Right?
It's going to be a one-word answer. Based on what you said, because you're basically applying Christian ethics. But let's say hypothetically someone was to kill your family member, would you apply the same standard that you would dislike the person but still love them?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're supposed to love everybody. That's why that priest in Australia who got stabbed immediately prayed for the attacker. So that is.
All right, I'm done with this. It's all repetitive and hasn't gone anywhere else. Tate is based if you're a Pakistani refugee. That's pretty funny. Alright, I'm gonna end it.